Hello and welcome back to No Bullshit. Today we're taking a look at a video from a tweet from AJ+. They sent this out a few days ago. It says, "Here's why white feminism is racist." This should be good. Let's go ahead and take a look at the video.
We need to talk about the problem with white feminism. What's white feminism? Although there are different definitions, basically we're talking about white, cis, able-bodied women not acknowledging the struggles of women of colour, people with disabilities, and LGBT communities.
Damn it, man! I'm trying to save an innocent life! I'm giving her all I've got, Captain. I love you. Always have.
I don't know what it is about Scottish accents, but they're always hilarious. Hell, Mike Myers made a whole career off of his Scottish accents, ranging from his early movie So I Married an Axe Murderer.
Well, that's a huge noggin. It's a virtual planetoid. Has its own weather system. Heed! Move!
And then he used the accent later on with the character Fat Bastard in two different Austin Powers movies.
First things first, where's your shitter? I've got a turtle head poking out.
And of course, we can't forget, Mike Myers also used a Scottish accent in 4 Shrek movies, where he voices the eponymous ogre character, who has a Scottish accent, of course. Now, I'm not saying all of this just to get sidetracked for no reason either. What I'm trying to say is, I can't take the Scottish accent seriously. I'm sorry. Maybe that's a character flaw of mine, sure. Or maybe it's because I grew up in America with all these hilarious Scottish comedy characters I mentioned. Or maybe, just maybe, Scottish people just have a humorous sounding cadence to their accent. Take your pick, but one of these reasons is why, to me, this AJ+ video is even more hilarious. Not only is it spouting out some of the worst leftist SJW rhetoric I've seen in ages, it's also being done in the funniest voice ever by this pink-haired girl with a Scottish accent who's trying to be super serious and intense, but I can't take it. It's kind of like having someone with a Muppet voice trying to explain gun safety or something else important, like they're telling you about a horrific murder or something. Good morning, class. I'm your history teacher, Professor Dankula. Top of the morning to you. Today we're going to talk about the Holocaust, where 6.8 million Jews lost their lives. I guess you could say they gave it all they've got, Captain. It was one of the worst tragedies in human history. So let's go ahead and show a bit of respect there, eh?
Want an example? How about the actor Gal Gadot, who constantly talks about feminism and equality? She played Wonder Woman and is also a feminist ambassador for Revlon.
And I always feel like there's such misunderstanding about what feminism actually means. For me, it's all about freedom of choice.
Well, Gal Gadot is Jewish, which some might consider not white, including Jewish people themselves. Or she could be Jewish and white. I don't know what she identifies as. You'd have to ask Gal, but the important question here is, why is AJ+ going out of its way to attack her? Well, if it's not obvious, not only is Gal Jewish, she's also from Israel. And of course, AJ+ is made by Al Jazeera in Qatar. So it looks like we got a classic rumble in the desert here. Muslims versus Jews. Israel versus Palestine. A rivalry that's been spanning many years and generations. Part of it dating all the way back to the 600s, back when the Muslim religion started. It started in the early 600s, which is pretty old, but not quite as old as Christianity, which goes back to the year 0, of course. And also, it's not nearly as old as the Jewish faith, which goes back even further than that, like 1500 BC, before Christ. Rest in peace. Regardless, today we're watching a super left-wing, pro-SJW, Muslim-made video, and it's going after Jews like Gal Gadot, and other white feminists too, but I'm not here to defend them exactly. But I do want to ask you guys something about the bigger picture. Are you siding with the Jews or Muslims here? Or overall in world politics? Or perhaps you don't want to take a side at all, which is fair too. No reason to get involved necessarily. And I don't necessarily want to get particularly invested in this either, but from where I'm standing, we kind of do have to pick a side. And the way I see it, AJ+ has clearly set this up as a us versus them premise with their attack here. And in my opinion, I'm clearly more inclined to side with their target than them. Now with all that said, this will eventually go beyond Gal Gadot and white feminists versus AJ+. As we'll quickly see, this is a sort of proxy war for their bigger dispute with Jews in Israel.
But the actor also supports the Israeli army, which oppresses Palestinian women on a daily basis. See the disparity?
Not really. Of course, Gal Gadot is going to support her country's army, just like how every American should support our army, and our police officers and firefighters and everything. These are the types of service people who protect our country and make it safe. And don't worry, we'll get to see AJ+ also bash the police here real soon. But first, let's address what she said about the Israelis oppressing Palestinian women. Where? When? I'm not sure what she's referencing here. Sounds like one of those lines they put in these bullshit propaganda videos. They make a big, bold claim as if it's a fact, and they do it real quick and then move on before you can question it too much. Well, I've already paused this because I'm questioning it, highly questioning it. A quick Google search shows some headlines that could be related. Something about Israeli soldiers being arrested for harassing Palestinian women. Sounds terrible, but it could be a clickbait headline too. I think it may have just been a strip search gone wrong, or a left-wing hit piece that is reframing this story to attack Israel. Regardless, one or two incidents like this doesn't mean a whole country's army is oppressing all the Palestinian women, and that's what I think this Scottish chick is implying. Oh, and by the way, I just realized she's got that funny voice and she's done up like a clown here, with a white face, pink hair, big red lips, and a blue nose ring. She's like beyond parody. I wish I was making this shit up, but it's already too hilarious.
I think white women ignore issues related to women of color because, it doesn't resonate. It's not their issue. It's not their concern. They don't experience what we experience. Therefore, they don't have to deal with it. They don't have to feel our issues and concerns.
Just like how you don't have to feel for our issues and concerns. I mean, I'm sorry if I seem defensive here, but it's really feeling like this video is becoming more of an attack on whites in general, with them also kind of calling out white feminists specifically. And go ahead, screw the white feminists. You can bash them all day, but this attack on white people is really not cool with me. First, the Muslim Muppet girl is going after us, and then they Skype in this crazy black chick to double down on the anti-whiteness. Tamika has a lot of white hate on her Twitter too, and she's even a co-chair on the Women's March. Shocking. But I find it really funny how Tamika just goes on and on about how white people don't feel for her and black people's issues. And at the same time, I'm 100% sure she's never even thought about caring for white people and their issues. Not once. That's an idea that would never have crossed her small mind. Everyone assumes you have to care about girls and minority issues, but I'm here to say white people and men, we have problems too. We just don't complain as much. And I think it's highly hypocritical of Tamika to criticize white people for not caring about her issues when she's never once cared about ours.
Western feminists ignoring the struggles of women who aren't white has a real-world impact. For example, let's take the gender pay gap. Women on average make 80 cents for every dollar a man makes, but women of colour have it way worse, especially black women. Black women are paid 63 cents for every dollar paid to a white man.
No, they aren't. The gender pay gap has been debunked for years. Women and minorities get paid less because they work less, and they also choose easier, lower-paying professions. So when this girl Zab here says that, and yeah, the girl with the funny voice and funny clown makeup also has a funny joke name. I'm not kidding here. Her real name is Zab. But let's just get over it and move on. We don't have time to laugh at this. And when Zab explains this pay gap stuff, she's either being super misleading on purpose in order to trick people, or she's really that stupid and doesn't understand the study this is based on, nor does she understand jobs working and how paychecks work. Either way though, this is terrible. The way she explains this doesn't match up with reality. Zab says it as if when a man makes $1 at a job, a woman would make 80 cents for working the same job in the same amount of time. But that's not true at all. Really, if you want to go by the actual pay gap study, it would say men earn $1 and women earn 80 cents because men work harder jobs with more hours and women work less at different jobs that are totally different. But when you say it this way, the right way, in the normal, accurate way, it doesn't sound bad or unfair at all. That's why feminists and losers like AJ Plus change it. They misrepresent the study and lie in order to make it appear to be unfair towards women and minorities when it's really not.
Don't catch you slipping now.
The original This Is America video by Childish Gambino tackled serious issues black people are facing in the US, including racism and police brutality.
Police brutality? Where? When? You ever notice the only time you hear about police brutality is when SJWs are complaining about it? Here's how I know we don't have a police brutality problem in America. In this digital age where internet and cameras are everywhere, and in a time where leftists are hating on cops and calling them racist all the time, and dying to catch them being racist and brutal, well, in this climate, we almost never hear about actual police brutality cases. All we hear is SJWs complaining about police brutality, a problem that doesn't exist. Now, to really drive this point home, think about it like this. Think about all the fake police brutality cases we've seen and debunked over the years here. Trayvon Martin, Alton Sterling, Philando Castile. These are the big names in supposed police brutality narratives, the ones the left are pushing right now. But if you've seen my past videos or read into these cases at all, you'll know that all these guys were breaking the law, and they weren't respecting the police and their orders. Now, it's always tragic when someone dies, but if you read about how two of these guys were reaching for guns, it makes the story a lot different. A cop shooting someone who was reaching for a gun is not illegal police brutality. It's legal self-defense. Now, I don't have time to go over all three of these guys' stories again, but I think you get the point. If these are the best police brutality stories the left can come up with, then it doesn't seem like police brutality is a problem at all. Certainly not as bad as they're leading on. If it was, they wouldn't have to lie and manipulate self-defense stories into these bullshit propaganda-pushing anti-cop narratives.
But Canadian comedian Nicole Arbour completely overlooked that by mocking the oppression and the suffering of black people when she did her parody video.
Don't catch you climbing up. Don't catch you climbing up. Cause they'll get you.
God forbid a Canadian white woman make a parody of the biggest music video of the year. Cry me a river, lefties. And I'm no Nicole Arbour fan either, don't get me wrong, but I would also never say her joke version of This Is America was mocking black people's suffering or whatever. Arbour was just goofing on Childish Gambino in his music video, which is totally fair game. I don't think it's offensive or racist just to mock someone who's black. And not only that, but AJ Plus is also looking into Gambino's video a little too much. Many leftists are quick to claim This Is America is a big win for them, but in truth, when you actually watch the video, it's pretty neutral and vague. There's certainly no big anti-cop, pro-communist message in there, as AJ Plus is implying. That's just their interpretation of the video. And Gambino himself said he wasn't going to comment on the messaging. It was meant to be open to interpretation, not taken strictly as a leftist narrative.
One of the main things that white women ignore is the trauma and abuse that they inflict upon women of color and people of color in general. And I think it's problematic because we can't get to a place where we're actually able to trust white women.
Not trusting a certain group of people based on their skin color is pretty much textbook racism. Not surprising coming from a Women's March organizer, but dude, come on. This lady has more double standards than the Catholic Church. She got triple standards, quadruple even. Think about it. How do you think Tamika here would respond if you said you just can't trust black people or black women? Because I bet you $100 she would say that's racist. While at the same time, she openly feels the same way about white women.
Like Susan B. Anthony of the suffragette movement? Those suffragettes who we learn about in school tirelessly fought for the white woman's right to vote, even if that meant not giving black men the same rights.
Your Honor, objection. Unrelated, and I think the use of black and white photography constitutes a breach of the statute of limitations. I motion for this testimony to be stopped immediately and stricken from the record.
Is it time that white feminists started facing up to the fact that they still have privilege and that women of colour face more struggles than they do? And that brings us to intersectional feminism.
Can't wait. But first, let's talk about this victim points competition here. That's really what's going on in this video, and with intersectional feminism for that matter. It's a competition among the left in order to see who gets more victim points and special treatment. It appears they've created their own internal victimhood hierarchy, and groups of leftists either obey that and go by it, or they start to eat themselves alive, as we've seen before. It's fun to watch either way though. What I like doing is trying to get this messed up social justice warrior hierarchy all figured out. It basically goes like this. Women are more victimized than men, while minorities are more victimized than whites. And gay and trans have more victim points than straight people. Don't forget that. And there's also religious layers like Jews are more oppressed than Christians, but sometimes Muslims get more victim points than Jews, as we're seeing today in this Al Jazeera made, Qatari funded AJ Plus video.
If we don't acknowledge that there's a clear divide between the advancement of one group over the continued systematic oppression of people of colour, then is there something really wrong with how we progress as a society?
No, there's nothing wrong with this society. Well, of course there are some things wrong with society, but systematic oppression of people of color is not one of them. If there was such a clear divide between whites and minorities in America, I think you would be able to show and explain at least one legitimate example in this video that's over 5 minutes. You haven't though. All this pink hair has done is attack Jews in Israel and misinterpreted the pay gap study, which is really an earnings gap. And she also breezed over a fake police brutality problem, which isn't real. If it was, they wouldn't have shown a picture of a black man being arrested peacefully. It would be a pic of a cop being brutal, not politely handcuffing a probable criminal suspect. Arresting black criminals is not oppression or racist, and it's definitely not police brutality either.
So what can white women do to change mainstream feminism? Actor Emma Watson recently acknowledged her privilege in a letter to her book club when she said she should have been asking how she benefited from being white.
I think the only thing that white women can do to change mainstream white feminism is to step back and center the voices of women of color.
Basically, white women need to give in and cuck themselves and let Muslims and minorities walk all over them. No, thank you. If minorities really want to be strong and successful, this is not how you do it. You see, that's where this supposed white privilege comes from. Minorities see whites doing so well that they call them privileged. And some of them are, sure, but this isn't a racist, pro-white, anti-black thing. White people are successful because we're smart, hardworking, and usually nice and well-meaning too. This is the real reason Americans do so well. White, black, or brown, or whatever. But in this world, there's always going to be haters and liars and leeches who want to bring people down when they do well. And that's why racist, anti-white people like in this video, they say well-off whites have white privilege, basically saying they didn't earn what they have. It was given to them because they were born with a certain skin color. And let's not forget this scenario also gives the blacks and minorities an easy out for when they fail. They can just blame their plight on other people instead of taking responsibility for their own actions. It's win-win for the left and lose-lose for white people. In the end, we got another abortion of a video from the pro-choicers on the left. Fitting, I suppose, but it's also highly inaccurate, and it's also grossly racist and anti-white, which is funny because Zab, the host here, looks pretty white to me, and she speaks with a white Scottish accent, yet somehow she's Muslim or from Qatar or something. I'm betting she's just as confused about her identity too, as we are, and that's probably why she chooses to dress up like a clown nowadays. What do you guys think? Is Israel's army oppressing Palestinian women? Is the gender pay gap still a thing? And is police brutality a problem in America? And what do you think about white privilege? Is that real, or is it just an excuse to hate whites? Comment your thoughts on everything below, and thanks for watching No Bullshit. See y'all next time.